Peggy is had two near-death experiences. She was a, social worker and brought uh, uh, renovation and challenge to that field. She's an author of the book called uh, uh,
The Will of a Wildflower.
Will of a Wildflower. I've read the book, it's very good. She is also a podcaster. She's interviewed over 400 people who've had near-death experiences. And so she's here tonight to tell about her own experience and what she learned from it. So, Peggy, take it away.
Okay, I'm going to start with my second NDE. It was 1986. I was 25 years old and I was pregnant for twins. I was just about 2 months, just starting to show because I was tiny at that time. And my doctor called and told me that I was pregnant and it was twins. And I was so overjoyed because when I was 20, my husband made me get my tubes tied at our second C-section. And the doctor recommended it too, but I always wanted a lot of kids. But I had found out that I could have it reversed. I'd had it reversed. And a month later, I was not just pregnant, but pregnant for twins. So I was so overjoyed. But I started having pain. My doctor, when I call him and tell him about my pain, he'd say, "You're fine. It's just the uterus stretching where you've had two C-sections. You've had the tubal reversal surgery, and it's just everything stretching." A couple of days later, Wednesday, I called again. He reassured me I'm fine again. I was like, I can hardly walk. By Friday, I couldn't walk. And so I had my husband take me to the hospital, which was our way. The pain was so bad, and it got worse and worse on the way. And all of a sudden, it faded. We were almost to the hospital. And I said a prayer to God to please not let me die right here on this highway. Let me at least get to the hospital. It's just a few miles away. I was thinking of my husband. I pictured him pulling over and like running around the car, didn't know what to do. His wife just died, and don't do that to him. I'm gonna die. Let me just get to the hospital. And we got to the hospital. He helped me in. They put me in a wheelchair. They had him stay and sign papers. And I said, I don't know if I'm gonna throw up or pass out, but I think it's a tubal pregnancy because when I got the tubal reversal to get pregnant, they said that every woman has 5% chance of tubal pregnancy. This will give you extra five, so I had 10%. And that's the only thing I could think that it must be. And my doctor had kept saying on the phone, "No, it's not." He said, "I saw both babies on the ultrasound earlier. I was in the office, and both babies are in the uterus. It's not tubal." But I felt that's what it must be. And so they just put me in the chair, started pushing me down a long hall to go get a room while my husband stayed to sign papers. And I wanted to pick up that bowl, that blue bowl they put in my lap, because I felt I was going to vomit. And I noticed I couldn't lift my hands. I thought I lost contact with my body. I couldn't lift a finger. And I thought, oh, wait a minute, I'm not going to throw up after all. I'm going to pass out. I'm going to pass out right now, which wasn't a fear because I'd had irritable bowel for so long from stress that it got to the point 2, 3 times a week I was vomiting and passing out. And with passing out, you don't dream or anything. You just wake up and you feel better for a while till you're sick again. So I thought, okay, I'm going to pass out right now. And all of a sudden, my chin hit my chest. And I am shooting like a rocket up through space. Now, I'd never had a experience before when I was passed out. And so I know I've got it. I've just died. What else would this be? And it's like this real fast, bumpy ride. It's dim and it's like a narrow space that I'm in, like almost like if you had a straw and you were being sucked up real fast, like through the straw, but yet it's kind of clear. You can see through it, and I could tell I was going through galaxy and galaxy. And I thought, I got to get back to I have three little boys at home because had my two little boys as in the process getting ready to adopt my disabled sister's boy. I got three little boys at home. I can't go wherever this is taking me. And I'm thinking I want to run away. And I'm so far out. There's no way I can get back. And silently, like a prayer to my sons, I said, "I'm so sorry. I didn't want to leave you." And then I'm just shot, and there's this loud wind speed, and it's like it's bumpy ride and everything. Every now and then be like a knock, knock, like I'm going through another galaxy or galaxy, is the feeling I had. And all of a sudden, that loud, bumpy ride, is just like that. Everything's changed. I look down and I'm in bright white light and I can't see me. I feel just like me, but I can't see me at all. And if it was like the floor, wall, ceiling was all bright white, but in the middle, like I was contained in light. And I thought, well, this must be heaven. What else would it be? But why am I alone? Am I going to be alone for eternity? And I'm looking around thinking, I don't want to be alone. Why am I alone? And I look over to my right and there's a real faint outline. And I thought, who's there? Because I'm thinking I see like shoulders and up the head and down. And it's a whole row of people standing there, like maybe five or six. And then I squint because I still feel like I have eyes. And I see there's another row sitting up front of that row standing. And it's still all just real faint outline. And I think I have a complaint department. And I look and I see one sitting up front and center, and I think that has to be God. And I thought, okay, listen, I can't stay here. I have boys to raise, and I'm just like screaming. And then to my left, the scene opens up. And it's like you were all of a sudden at a grocery store just walking in, and you go in, and there's the cash register, there's the girl checking somebody out, and there's a boy on the floor just throwing a fit, like he's maybe 6, 7 years old, and he's just demanding what he wants, and he wants it right now. And I felt like there was a mother's presence, and was like unaffected, like, no, you can't have that. And I felt that was God's way of showing me this scenario to tell me, and by watching that, like the lesson was, something a young mother to understand, like I'm acting like a spoiled child. I needed to humble myself and, act like I had some sense. So I thought, okay, I gotta stop screaming and yelling. I gotta act like I got sense. And so I started talking sensible and explaining why I couldn't stay. But when I do that, I see a physical me straight across from me. And so I see myself as if an observer and I'm screaming out, but yet it's more in tears and despair than anger. And I'm saying, my dad did this, my stepdad did this, my brother, my sister, my mom, all these people did all these things. I cannot leave my kids down there on earth. It's like feeding them to the wolves, and it's not safe. Like, I don't want them to be there without a mother's love and protection like I was. And I say, if you could show me that they would be better off without me for whatever reason, I agree to stay. If not, I beg to return. And I didn't think that God would actually show me. I thought when I said it, he would know because he's God, like he would know and explain something to me. But then all of a sudden, I see a man from behind, and I instinctively know that has to be Jesus. Brown hair down the shoulders, kind of wavy and full, and then this gown, and I'm just not even walk, just move. And we're just like this, shoulder, shoulder. I don't look at him or anything. As soon as we're shoulder, shoulder, we drop down and we're at earth, just like that. And we're looking over top our trailer at night. And then I thought, well, I can't see. And then we were down at the ceiling. And I see from the ceiling, there's my three boys in their bedroom. And they're discussing the fact that mom has died. Like this is fresh, like they've just been told this. And my middle son, Jeremy, which is my youngest biological, says his older brother, Matthew, and they're like, boys are like 4, 5, and 6 at the time. He says to Matthew, I don't care that you say mom is dead. I want her back. And I want her back right now. And I felt his pain in his heart so bad that I retracted. I couldn't take it. And I had such guilt and remorse that I had got my tubes tied. I had got this reversal, and this was my fault. Because when I retracted, I'm back in the white light, but now I'm close in front of the panel of the one standing and the one sitting, and I'm in the center of it. But yet I feel now like Jesus is sitting by God. And Jesus is on my right, which, they say in the Bible that Jesus sits on the right hand of God, but that would make him on God's left. And I know I have a physical body now because I see my hands come up front of my face. And I say, who else will teach them about you? And then I'm back in that wheelchair. And I'm thinking, what was that? I never heard of near-death experience. I thought that my exact words in my head was, this has never happened in the history of the world. And I heard the nurse talking to another nurse behind me. The wheelchair is stopped. They're talking, discussing something. And I remember all my thoughts so clearly. I thought she was so busy socializing, she didn't even know her patient just died. And I thought, once I feel my feet, I'm all the way back because I didn't feel like I was just back all at once. And then I felt this warmth go down and I felt my feet on the armrests. And I think that has something to do with when I'd lost contact with my hands, like it was coming back in contact with everything. And so then they took me to this room, and the bed is jacked up high. There's a great big light above it. And I'm getting in that bed, and my husband's there, and he has him keep getting me blankets. I'm shaking. I'm so freezing cold. My knees are knocking. And my doctor comes in, he examines me, thinking maybe it's a miscarriage. And then he sits me up and he says, Peggy, your uterus is still intact. Why do you keep saying it's a tubal pregnancy? And I could not tell him what just happened because my sister, who I was getting ready to adopt her son, is mentally disabled. I knew that if I told that I was afraid they'd put me in a psych ward. And whatever's wrong with me, if it wasn't tubal pregnancy, what was it? Because something just killed me. I was just dead. And I felt kind of like I was just given a short amount of time. God was giving me more time for the doctor to fix this. And if he couldn't fix it, I would be dead forever. And so I just wanted him to fix it, but yet he said, I'm fine. So I thought about my options because he was getting ready to discharge me. And I thought my only options is st to go home and my sons find me dead in the morning or find a way to stay here. So I said, I'm not going home because I thought they can call my husband later and say that I died, but I'm not going to do that to my boys. So they put me in a private room. He said, well, if it make you feel better, since you live an hour away, and we'll put you in a room overnight. He said, but there's nothing wrong with you. So overnight, I would get a pain in my right hip bone. I would sit up, get my bowl, wake up, and vomit everywhere when I woke up, but in my bowl. And this went all night. The nurse was getting mad. Use your bowl. And I said, call the doctor. Something's wrong. She said, I'm not going to call and wake him up. And I'm sure he put something in the note that I was fine, nothing wrong with me. And I started to get it through the night. Wait a minute. I didn't have any more experiences of heaven, but I knew I was dying each time here, that this wasn't just passing out, this was dying. So I said another prayer, God, please keep me alive till morning. Give my doctor a chance to come in and maybe he'll find out what's wrong. Maybe he'll do another ultrasound. And that's what happened. He come in and they did the ultrasound. The nurse was just in there with me and my sister, and she's doing the ultrasound. And all of a sudden her eyes bulged. She jumped up, chair fell backwards. She ran to the post, picked up the phone, said, Dr. White stat, and she ran out of the room. And I thought, well, I'm a goner. He comes in, he says, Peggy, it's the worst thing imaginable. You have internal bleeding filling your entire abdominal cavity clear up to your chest. And he told me after surgery, he said that was the biggest tubal pregnancy the hospital ever saw. You'll probably have doctors poking their head in your door in your room to look at you because you're the talk of the hospital. And so that was the tubal pregnancy. And a few months later, I was pregnant again. And we went to a family reunion, and everybody's in line to get food. And I heard a child cry. Nobody else heard it. And I just felt led. I went out to this field and the crying stopped. And a voice clearly said to me, check that tall grass. And I thought, oh, there's nothing in that tall grass. I walked over. Here was a little boy, little toddler, face down in the water in that ditch, drowning. And his body was just barely jerking. I reached up and picked him up, stood him on his feet. And he looked at me like he'd seen a ghost and ran over to his parents. And he's pointing at me there like, what? Like they couldn't see me. I think I'm right here. But when I picked him up, I realized I had miscarried. And then went to gathering at my ex's family, the big Catholic family, 12 kids, and they're all drinking. And nobody could say, I'm sorry you lost the twins. I'm sorry you had this miscarriage, anything. So I went outside and I sat in the wet grass from the dew, and I just looked at the night sky at the stars, and just got lost and just said, God, I give up. If they can't care about their niece or nephews that they've lost, there's no way they're ever going to care about me. And when I did that, all of a sudden I saw my drowning from 5 years old from front to back, like I was watching like a movie trailer. And it just like took over me. It kind of jerked and I sat up and I thought, did I drown when I was little? So the next morning I went to my mom's and I said, I only have two questions. Did I drown when I was little? And how did you find me? Because I can remember all the drowning, but I can't remember the rescue. She's like, how do you remember that? So the drowning at 5 years old, it all come back. And so here's the drowning. At 5 years old in 1966, I was sitting on the floor playing Barbie dolls at her house, and my mom come in and she says, it's hot outside. You and John, my brother, who's about 2 years older, says, you go on ahead, and me and Terry, who's like 3 years older than me, because we'll be down after bed. And so me and John took off down to the pond below our hill, and I could hardly keep up. He's a fast runner, and my older siblings was never the type to look out for baby sister. So he went to the farthest end of the pond, started doing his laps from the end to middle and back. And so I weighed out just a little bit on my feet and watching my mom and sister. They didn't come. And I saw a board floating in the water, and I thought, I bet I could use that as a raft. So I wanted to do laps like my brother was, go from the edge of the pond out to the center. I almost got to the center on that board. It worked perfect as a raft. And I said, hey, John, look at me. He swam out real fast. Just before he got to me, I thought, oh no, he always takes my toys. And just as I said, no, don't, he was reaching for that board. He got his own self on it and continued doing his laps. Here I am in the middle of the pond and can't swim. And I drown. I drop down in that muddy water. I'm tumbling. I can't even tell which up, down, sideways anymore. I'm choking. I'm screaming underwater. I'm wishing that my mom and my sister was there, who I saw as my protectors. Nobody knew I was in trouble. It's such a feeling of being alone and this pure terror. And then all of a sudden, I was at the ceiling of our kitchen looking down at my mom and sister. And I saw them getting stuff out of the cabinets, like they were making stuff for a little picnic. And I didn't hear anything worldly. I just felt their emotions, their concentration, and like I was inside them. And then I was back in the pond and I'm choking. And then my throat hurt so bad, I felt like it was going to burst wide open. And then all of a sudden, it was like I woke up from a nap, that real calm, peaceful feeling. And the water is now a bright, shiny, transparent green. And my first thought at 5 years old is, my parents lied to me. Why did they lie? There's no such thing as drowning. What was I scared of? Like I was just panicking for nothing. Like I'm fine. And I drifted down to the bottom of the pond and the fish are bumping into me. And then a scene opens up on my left. And I see this fish bowl. It's a memory. I had walked in our living room and saw fish in the little bowl mom had, and she got little treasure chest. And I thought, well, how come they're not afraid of that treasure chest? But I stick my hand in, they're afraid of me. And these fish that are bumping into me, how come they're not afraid of me? Like we go fishing with Dad, I try to catch fish, and they're afraid. What's going on here? And I realized, oh, those fish know something I don't. I'm dead. And I thought, well, I don't want to be a dead girl bottom of this pond. And so I raised up the top of the water and I realized that I could travel by just what I wanted. And I thought, do I want to stay below or go above? And I thought, well, I'm bored below. I'll go above. And I could see the two above and below at the same time. Like my vision's different. That's weird. So I went as high as the treetops and I thought, I'm just getting used to this. I'll go further later. And then I heard a female voice a certain distance. I could tell where she was from me. And she says, no, don't go yet. If they find you soon, you might go back. And I thought, go back. That's not how death works. I know that much. But so I was good for a while and I stayed there. But then I thought, I'm going to go because I don't have to listen to anybody anymore. And so I went one direction and I went through a house and there was old people sitting around the table and I'm assuming they were ghosts. And I said, where can I find kids to play with? And the old man at the end of the table said, check the graveyards. I thought, well, I know, it sounds strange. So I didn't tell anybody that for a long time because it sounds so strange. And so they went back to the pond, and I still want kids to play with because I'm thinking, I'm dead. Kids die sometimes, not just old people. I want kids to play with. So I went down the highway, and there's two boys walking, one about my age, one a couple years older. They're carrying buckets, fishing poles. And I said, what are you doing, huh? and they were ignoring me. And then the younger one was like, we're like telepathically talking. He's like, oh, we're in a hurry home. We've been fishing. We're running late. And so I flew over the highway downtown Marietta, dipped down, and there's kids in this side yard running, playing kickball. And I'm running, playing ball. And then again, I thought, oh, this is boring. They don't see me. I went in and out of houses towards my grandma's house. And also at the same time, because the sequence is hard. Like, what's first, what happened that? Because I also remember hovering over the pond, and now my mom and my sister is on a bed sheet. I didn't see them walking down or nothing. Now they're sitting there, like, I've been there a while, and they're talking, and I felt their conversation, their mood again, but didn't hear. I just felt that mood, and I felt jealous because I'll never be old enough to talk to my mom like that because, I was dead. Saw my brother doing his laps, and I was mad because he didn't care that I died. So next thing I know, before it was all over with, I had a knowing my family didn't love me. And then a voice clearly said, God sends children here to be loved. That's why he sends them here. I was like, wait a minute. You show me they don't love me, and then you tell me that, but I'm not loved. That's not fair. And this strong sense of injustice grew in me. But then I wake up and I'm coughing. My brother's carrying me over his right shoulder. I'm dangling down. I see my mom and sister on his right walking up ahead towards our house. And I'm throwing up water down his back. He says, Mom, can I put her down now? And he sets me down on the road. And my mom and sister had already walked up. He just sets me down and he runs up. And I'm standing there alone on the road with this knowledge. My family don't love me. And so I was just having fun. I want to continue doing what I was just doing. Why would I go up to the house if family don't love me? And I felt I had a choice, and I felt like it was my life and my right. And I thought, well, I'm going to go back to that pond. I'm not going to fight it this time. I know it hurts, but I'm not going to fight it. I want to go back to what I was doing. I took one step towards the pond to do that on the road, and the angel voice I heard before appears now. I see her, and she's hovering over the road, and she's like this white, transparent shape of a woman in a flowing gown with long sleeves at the end. And I said, she says, no, don't. I said, why? They don't love me. And she says, well, you'll have a lot of love someday. I said, where will I find it? And she pointed right towards Belpre. And then I walked on up home. And I realized I had to be my own mother now. And I went home, got out of my bathing suit, got on a nightgown, crawled in bed. I didn't see my family anywhere. I don't know where they were. Nobody come like, you okay or anything. And so I pulled up this nursery rhyme book and I flipped through. I was too young to read, but I memorized, most of the stories. And it come to the old woman that lived in a shoe, had so many children, she didn't know what to do. And I felt like, is that what the angel meant? I'd have a lot of love someday? Like, will I have a lot of kids? Maybe I'll have an orphanage. Maybe I'll love unloved kids like me. And so, as I got older, all these memories just kept coming back. After that tubal pregnancy in 86, I had no word NDE, nothing to look up, or I just had all these memories that I couldn't talk to anybody about. But now that I'm older and I can look back, like all these puzzle pieces are starting to come together of the after effects of the NDE. Strange things happen after the drowning. Strange things happen after the tubal pregnancy, and and I ended up being therapeutic foster parent for 60 kids. We adopted 10. And I just look back and think it just felt like it was all planned and all meant to be.